Welcome, dear friends. If you've seen the name of this video, you probably know what I'm going to talk about in this video. Let me give you a proper introduction from the article that was published in the medical magazine The Lancet in 2018, and it described the issue with being lonely as this. Imagine a condition that makes a person irritable, depressed, and self-centered, and is associated with a 26% increase in risk of premature mortality. Wow, that's quite a start. Loneliness can eat you, literally destroy your body. I went through many lonely days, lost my sleep, had health issues, and was catapulted into depression by the mere loneliness. This is a video for any of you who are feeling lonely. This is an extremely painful feeling. I'd like to first give a virtual hug to every one of you who are struggling with loneliness right now. Having friends and close, meaningful relationships is very important, but sometimes life does an unfortunate twist and we may end up being alone for some time. In this situation, you'll need to have a right mindset so you don't end up suffering. Today, I want to share with you some simple methods that can change your relationship with loneliness so you'll never dread it, because it will forever change into solitude, a close cousin of loneliness, but a completely different beast nonetheless. Maybe you'll even start to invite it into your life once you see how beneficial it could be for your productivity and creativity. I myself used to have love and hate relationship with feeling alone. Sometimes it would tear me apart so much I would want to climb walls. Other times I actually would crave it and seek every opportunity to escape other human beings. And it may sound like such a puzzle to solve, such a chameleon to tame, but the fact that this experience can be both desired and loathed actually tells me that the solution lies right there, in the duality of it. Let me first differentiate between these two feelings, loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is a feeling you would rather not have, the feeling of being alone, isolated, even abandoned. And solitude, on the other hand, is a personal choice of being alone and also being content with it. In our current culture of endless connectivity, it's so easy to be in the middle of the crowd and still feel lonely. I bet a lot of you can relate to this. Scrolling through hundreds of photos posted by the people you follow but you barely know, probably never seen in your life in person, often leads us feeling even more miserable. But wait, not everything is so bad. There is actually a good part to the internet and social media, like the fact that you can be alone, far away from anyone else, and be connected with others, the people that you love. You see, a lot of it actually comes from an experiencing person, from the mind, because we interpret the reality and we digest it and make it either serve us or hurt us. Now, I rarely feel lonely, and even when I do, I work hard to reframe it and enjoy whatever solitude I was granted. Honestly, it wasn't always so. Up until the point I left my parents' home, I really enjoyed the moments when I was left alone, because it didn't happen very often, and I always knew that there are friends and family who will be back in a moment. But things really changed when I transferred between universities in the middle of getting my degree. And I left all of my relatives and all my friends behind, and I struggled to make new ones because everyone already had their own circle. To add to this, I knew nothing about detrimental effects of loneliness. So at that time, I let the social isolation get to me and get pretty hard, with countless tears on countless nights. That period of time taught me a lot about the importance of human connection. Research actually shows that people who live long and healthy lives all have in common the fact that they are part of a community. They have meaningful relationships. And it just goes back to the history of humanity. We were always part of the tribe. So being alone is kind of unnatural for a human being. I can get into a very long discussion about adverse effects of feeling lonely. There are countless of scientific papers on that, but at this point, we probably all heard it. Basically, it robs us of internal immunity and creates a fire of inflammation, which is something you really want to avoid if you want to be healthy and live a long life. But the thing is that loneliness is not the same as solitude. Being alone can actually be relaxing, even rejuvenating. It can help you focus, it can help you recharge. Introverts actually thrive on being alone. But once solitude turns into loneliness, that's where the bad stuff happens. Now let's get to the good stuff and see how to actually make peace with loneliness and instead transform it into valuable solitude. First, let me just tell you, if you were to remember only one thing after watching this video, I want you to remember this. It is in the power of your mind to label your experience as positive or negative. You choose whether to enjoy the situation or to find it devastating. There is really no such thing as objective loneliness. When you are able to find reasons to say, I actually enjoy being alone, I don't need anything to stimulate me to feel good, you'll become a winner. Of course, at first it might be easier said than done, so let me add a couple of useful tools that may come in handy on your journey. Let's start with a quote from Jean-Paul Sartre. If you are lonely when you are alone, you are in a bad company. This is a really great quote. All right, let's see. Number 1. Start with checking if your fear of being alone, that is, the fear of loneliness, is in fact the fear of boredom in disguise. When you have a quiet time and it opens doors to introspection, to your own mind, do you try to run away from it as fast as possible? For example, it may be something like grabbing your phone and scrolling through things. This is a sure sign that you are not comfortable being one-on-one with your thoughts. In this case, what you want to do is put away your distractions, grab a pen and paper, and start journaling. Whatever it is your mind whispers you, you'll find many interesting things hiding in your head, and you definitely don't need to avoid them. Eventually, you'll find it interesting having an intimate moment with yourself. You'll learn things about yourself. There is really no need to be fearful of your own thoughts or of boredom. Then next one. If loneliness might sound like you're alone, it could be tempting to surround yourself with lots of random people and shallow acquaintances. But it turns out that shallow friendship does not protect you from loneliness. You can really be in a crowd and still feel lonely. Researcher Tim Kasser studied people's values on their effect on well-being, so when he looked into relationships, there were 2 major categories. The first category of relationships was with the value on popularity. That's where the drive is to be liked by more people. This category of people was more depressed than people in the second category. In the second category, people viewed relationships based on affinity, that is, the drive for deep and close relationships. And those who valued their relationships based on the affinity, not on popularity, were actually happier and healthier. So don't really strive to have many friends, strive to have good and close relationships. Someone with whom you can share your deepest concerns. One friend is actually good for starters. Focus on quality, not quantity. Also, one easy way to get meaningful human connection while you're still looking for a close friend, because finding close friends is not easy, is actually to go and help other people. That will make everyone happier. It could even be just a smile, a compliment. That's enough to spark human connection. On to the next one, and this one is valuable for parents. If you have kids, let them explore free time and boredom. It might be tempting to schedule every minute of their day and pack it with activities, but it turns out that leaving no idle time can make the child in the future struggle with being on their own. Often our attitudes and mind framing form when we are young, so don't pack their schedules so much there's no alone time there. When I grew up, we didn't have internet or smartphones. We did have television. It was still kind of limited. So on a rainy day, when my friends were away, I would sit at home with myself. It never felt lonely, but I did feel bored. And that always led me to find something to do with my own self. We call it creativity these days. So this leads me to another point, which is remember that spending time alone is a very productive time if you let the silence speak to you. We all should cherish quiet moments and find answers to our internal questions, get creative solutions to problems. Solitude gives you no choice but to get creative. If you have some sort of problem, trying to busy yourself with something else will not help you solve it. But when you're bored, apparently your brain starts working a little bit differently and comes up with very creative solutions. As Johann Goethe said, one can be instructed in society, one is inspired only in solitude. A lot of artists find their inspiration when they are by themselves. Some even move out into a cabin on purpose, somewhere far from populated areas, so they don't get distracted, so they can finish their book or another creative project. Many talented people I know have this thing in common. Sometime in their past, they had this period when they were somehow cut off from the society, like moving to another country or not being able to make friends or being homeschooled, which allowed them to dedicate their time to whatever was interesting to them, to hone their craft. And surprisingly, those people have developed excellent skills. They're usually very creative and very skilled. They're also self-driven and very productive. Here we go to the last piece of advice. One of the problems is that we often compare ourselves with others and think that something is wrong with us. We see others posting photos with friends on parties, having spectacular social life, and we feel that we're so behind, that compared to them we're so lonely. But this is not true. Be very mindful of falling into a trap of social media perfect life. So much of what you see on Instagram today is staged, especially on influencer accounts. Social media is thriving on looking happy, looking your best, having the most glorious parties that you unfortunately won't attend. Seeing all those pretty vacation pictures, happy gatherings, polished portraits will make anyone question their own reality. Your reality in comparison will seem so dull and uneventful. If only we bragged on the internet about our solitary evenings, about our insightful quiet dinner, or a peaceful walk in the park. Unfortunately, that is not what sells. So don't get hooked on this drug of comparing yourself to what you see on social media. Alright, we're getting close to the end of this video, and now you tried it all and so far you still have very hard times being on your own. The last thing I can recommend you is to go out in nature. Nature is our friend forever. Watch birds, talk to a stranger, pick a new class of interest. You might find some excellent friends at a local pottery gathering and learn along the way how to make your own cute mugs. Volunteering is also a great option. And the last but not least, there's an excellent advice from a NASA astronaut, Scott Kelly. He spent 340 days in space. Can you imagine that? I guess with all the virus lockdowns, it's not that hard anymore to imagine yourself in a similar situation. What he recommends to stay in good mental shape is first to keep a journal. Second, stick to a schedule. And third, get a hobby. This is a very simple recipe and it works great in case you got stuck somewhere without being able to connect with others, be it moving to a new place or having a lockdown. So I hope by now I managed to convince you that it's up to each one of us to frame a situation, and the best you could do for yourself is to pick a better side. Pick something that serves you, not destroys you. There is no loneliness when you have solitude. And I want to close this video with a quote from May Sarton, and it says, "Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self." So with that, I would like to end this video and say thank you to everyone who joined me, and I will see you next time.